Viewer discretion is advised.
That's the last one. That never let excuses stop you. Our people are filled with excuses. I hear them all the time.
Mandate.
Welcome to Mandate, where we navigate fresh perspectives and nothing is off the table. Tonight, all the way from West Auckland, also representing South Auckland, we have a community leader, a motivator, and recently named officially New Zealand's local hero of the year. Please welcome Dave Brown Buttabean Letele.
Originally South Auckland, bro.
Yeah. South Auckland. Yes.
Yeah, cool.
Hey, also so much. Where do we start? Also, because I know you're such a big personality. But I think one thing we really want to kind of touch base, Dave, is how did you turn your life around? Because you're doing some great things at the moment, some real awesome stuff. Now you're a former boxer. Now you're a dancing sensation on Dancing with the Stars now.
Let's go.
Yeah, and so how did it for you? I think a lot of people may be very interested in this, in terms of how did you turn your life around? Because I know it wasn't always a bed of roses back in the days.
Yeah, look, I've had to rebuild a couple of times in my life. Hopefully never again. But I've had some really dark moments. I guess, most people would know my father was the president of the Auckland chapter of the mob. And it's funny coming back to this studio and being on the street because, when he was up to no good, later I would have been in my 20s, we had a Pro Hydro shop just down the road there, just next to the F45 over there. Yeah. We had two shops there. We had our bike shop just over here, and then we had a couple of warehouses that were used to, we had filled with cars on the street, Lincolns, Cadillacs, Range Rovers. At that time, I was driving around a Mercedes limousine, which screamed drug dealer. I had no license. And,
wow.
So it's crazy coming back to the street because, we got up to, there was lots of no good. And, had lots of material things here, but we talked about it with my dad earlier. When you get all these nice things that way, you never appreciate it because the money has, blood on it. It didn't have sweat. It didn't have sweat on it. It had blood. So you never really appreciate it. So, I've been through a lot. And in that life when he went away when I was 21, and he's gone away a couple of times, 5 years old for bank robbery, but I didn't understand it. At 5 you don't get it. All I remembered was my mum coming home in a panic. It's always the woman that are left to sweep up the mess that us men we create, when we're in that life. And I remember her coming panicking, and then I ended up moving to Australia live with my dad's parents, Samoan, Seventh-day Adventist. So obviously anyone who's familiar with Seventh-day Adventist knows it's strict. You add Samoan to it, it's 1,000 times worse. So I was raised in that, and moved back here, and when my father got out, and I never used it as an excuse. I hated being poor, but I never wanted to go down the route that my father and my uncle, who was also a bank robber and a mongrel mob member, I never wanted to go down that path. So, I did really well in school, passed school C, passed sixth form, and, my grades in sixth form were good enough to get me to uni. So I took seventh form off, and then went to uni, and it's about all I did. I went there, and and at 21, my father decided that he was going to start growing marijuana and had warehouses and houses all over Auckland. I was working in one of the warehouses as like a security guard, but the type of security guard that doesn't call the police. We were there in case we got robbed, and when I got a call from my mum to say don't go to work because we've been raided, it's the feeling that I got is something that I talk to youth about a lot, because this, we run youth courses and all this type of stuff, and this gangster life is just so often glamorized in movies and music and Instagram and all this stuff, and I can understand it because as a kid and you're living in a deprived area, if you don't have that, if you have no money, you're not good at school, you're not good at sport, you look around you, the only people with money are drug dealers and gang members. So that's what you have to aspire to. There's no other role models that they can reach out and have any kind of connection with that are in the community. So I get it, you know, and when he went away at 21, I fully understood the repercussions of his actions on us, and especially on my mum and my two younger sisters. My uncle was already away 15 years in Parry, so he was gone. My dad's now going away again. So I was really worried for my mum, and that's one thing that they don't tell you in the recruitment videos about that, going through that, you know, and you see the glamour, but you don't see the pain, you know. So that's one thing I always talk about, is that pain, everything that crime took from me, took from my family. And, you know, so I quit uni, and I quit my other job that I had, and I ended up living in a tini house in Mangere, Plumley Cres. It's now a Grace Foundation community home, so it's doing, you know, positivity now, but back then it was a home, 36 Plumley Cres. It was a home that was connected to our family and connected to the mob for a long time, and it was like a halfway house. It was heaps of us there, me and my cousins and whoever wanted to stay there. Half the time we had no power. You know, we were selling drugs to put the power on, and just doing whatever I could to build this reputation, what I thought was a reputation, so no one would come near my mum. Because in that life, you know, you're left alone. No one was coming to make sure we were okay. And so, you know, I was just getting drunk and partying a lot, and I would do anything for money. You know, that's it. I would, you know, I'd steal, I'd rob, you know, kidnap, whatever. I didn't care. I wanted to make money, and I wanted to build a reputation, which was just all full of crap, you know. But at the time, I didn't think it was, and I was just so angry. I was just so angry with the world, so angry with my father, and I had chips on both shoulders, you know, and just I was walking around like just filled with rage, and I hated my life, and where I found myself, you know. And I got drunk one night, and I came home, and I pulled, you know, I went into the kitchen, and I pulled out a steak knife, and I put it into my chest. And I just remember waking up in hospital, and my mum's there, she's crying, and I just was like reassuring her, you know, don't worry, Mum, I'm just drunk, don't worry about it, you know. And then they bring in my dad, and he's with 2 prison guards. I don't want to see him. And we only just recently started talking about this. He actually came on my radio show, and I asked him, what did you feel like when you came in to the hospital with prison guards to visit me after I'd done that to myself? And, you know, he asked me for my forgiveness. It's funny, you know, I really encourage everyone listening to talk. Because we haven't talked. I'm 42 years old. That was the first time we've ever discussed it. It was on my radio show, you know. And, yeah, you know, it was quite tough. It was also healing for me. You know, he asked me for forgiveness, and we had a lot of work to do. We had a lot more talking to do, but at least we're on that path. And I remember I just talked about, I was at another talk before this, and I remember it vividly because I was on the doorstep of this tini house in Mangere, and I got released from hospital. I just told the psychiatrist what they wanted to hear, what she wanted to hear, and I got out. And I was sitting on the back doorstep, and I just, you know, I don't go to church, and I'm not religious, but I believe in God. I have faith, you know. And I just stared at the sky. I said, man, surely God, there's more for me than this. And I didn't know what it was, but I knew it wasn't, you know, doing drugs, selling drugs, fighting and drinking all the time. I knew that wasn't me. I knew it was meant for more than that. And I got up and I got up off that doorstep, and I worked, you know. And I always encourage our people not to dwell at the bottom, you know, and feel sorry for ourselves and wait for the system to help us. If we're going to wait for the system to help us, we're going to be waiting all our lives. You know? And so I got up and I worked, but I was also very blessed that I had good family. I still had a good family. So when we think about what we see now and the people that we help in our food share and the wraparound services that we do in BBM, you know, they're coming from generations of, I don't know if I can swear, but generations of fucked upness. You know, there's never been, they've never seen success. They've never had anyone that's not been on the dole. You know, they've just only seen violence, crime, and just people being losers. You know, that's all they've seen. So at least with me, like my dad and my uncle went off, but they came from a good family still. You know, so I had a family that could support me and take me out of that situation. But I still had to work, you know. And from that doorstep, I ended up, you know, being a pretty successful league player. I chased that dream for a long time and ended up, you know, owning businesses and making a lot of money. And you'd think that was the happy ending, but it wasn't, you know. And I always will say, you know, I wish I got taught in school basic money handling skills. You can see when you see a lot of our people that become successful and they have a lot of money, and then you see them lose it. And you go, man, how did that happen? You know, like it's easy, man. Like, especially when you're Pacifica or Māori and you're very generous to your family and generous to anyone. And you know, you don't know what GST is, and you don't. I hope you boys know what GST is and what income tax is. You know, make sure you pay your taxes. And you know, if you can't afford something, don't get it. You know, it's pretty simple. I had to learn that the hard way, and you know, I lost everything. And I always say to parents to be careful what your kids see, because you know, although I never wanted to be like my family, my dad and my uncle. But I saw it, you know. I saw what they did when times got tough. I saw what they did for money. And so I just dove headfirst into that life, you know. I never talk about it, especially not on camera, but, you know, I got involved in whatever I could to make money. And, you know, as I always say, in that life, you either end up dead or in jail. And it was a miracle. It was a miracle that I didn't end up in either place. And but I did end up with a gun to my head. And, you know, I was in a warehouse by myself, and I just thought, geez, I had like a moment where God came into my life and just sort of changed the way I was thinking, you know, and I moved back here in February 2014 with not 1 cent and without my family. And, you know, to anyone out there that's going through struggle, and especially financial struggle, and you're thinking, oh man, if I can just go and sell this to make some money just quickly and then I'll get out, you know, just don't do it, you know. Because just be happy. Like, we've all been broke, we've come from there, just go broke again, like, and still have your family, you know, because that's what matters. All your, like, we're all driven to give our kids material things when they don't really matter. It's nice to have material things, don't get me wrong, you know, when you get it the right way, but your kids don't need it. All they need is you, and you being the best version of you, your time. That's what they need, you know, and just be happy with that and rebuild. You know, I should have been happy with that, but everything I do I have to learn the hard way. So, you know, I had to literally rebuild from there, from a bed I couldn't fit on, staring at the roof, thinking, fuck, like, and the inner, Mike King talks about it a lot. The inner critic in all of us, we all have an inner critic, you know, and when you go through these tough times, your inner critic can be deafening, you know, and it was, for me, it was just so loud, you know. My head talk was just telling me, you fucking idiot, how did you fuck things up so badly? You had it all, and now you've got nothing. Look at you, you're useless, you know. But I didn't listen, you know, and it's, as I always say, you know, I never used it as an excuse to stop. I used it as fuel. It was my fuel to, it just burned inside me. I wanted my kids back. I wanted my life back. And I'd do anything, and the right way. And that's what I did. I got up from that bed I couldn't fit on at my sister's house. I borrowed her car, borrowed $20 petrol, and I went to One Tree Hill and went for a walk. That's how my journey started.
Wow, that's crazy. What a crazy! It's just the whole backdrop of your life and how you turn it around. That's crazy. What do you say to? Because some men might be watching this and thinking, hey. But that's your story, David. That's, you know, and some of them might be broke. You're like, man, I'm broke. I need that money. What do you say to some of those men who are like in the brink of, man, despair? Like, what do you say to those kind of guys? Like, well, that's Dave's story. I don't know how to pick myself up.
It's not just my story; it's our story.
Yeah,
you know, like I'm no different to what so many other of our people are facing. Anyone in deprived areas, we're all facing the same struggle. It's not just me. You know, it's, anyone out there can identify with it. I'm just trying to tell you from my experience, it's not worth it. You know, it is not worth it. I'm telling you, it's not. Yeah. You know, I went through so much pain, and when you know, just hold your family tight and understand that's what's important. Just get your money the right way. Go, you know, I'd work any job, I'd do whatever. I've cleaned toilets, I've, you know, had to weed gardens in cemeteries, you know, pick up rubbish, whatever it is, I've done it. And I'd much rather get it that way than selling drugs and having to look behind my back all the time. And you never relaxed.
Wow.
You know, you never ever relaxed. And, you know, it was just a miracle. So that's why I'm not wasting my time now, you know, for helping people, because it's a miracle from God that I'm still here. And so, you know, I'm helping as many people as I can.
Oh, man. That's powerful, man.
Thank you. So thank you for sharing that, man, because it's, like you said, it's not just your story, it's our story. And when you, because you're one of those community leaders that have been there, and that's why there's such a massive following. That's why a lot of people can resonate and come to you for this help. And we've seen the transformation through some of the people that you work with. So just wanted to honor you, like just right now, and just thank you. There's so many rock bottom moments that you have, and a lot of people, when we go through our rock bottom moments, we either respond in a way where it's like, oh man, I can still go back to what I'm used to. But for you, that last one was like, man, this didn't work for me before. This wasn't working for me now.
Yeah, like it was losing my kids, and it was through my own actions. It was you know, it was me. I was the idiot, and that was it for me. You know, when my kids left on the train, I was in Sydney, and one of my kids, Tavita, he turned and looked at me, and that look is what still haunts me now.
Yeah.
It was like a look there where he knew it was a lot. You know, he wouldn't see me for a while. You know, and it just hurt me, and it would keep me up at night. You know, ended up living in a Grace Foundation home, a community home, on a mattress on the floor, because the legs broke. I was so heavy, you know, and you know, I was staying with rapists and robbers that were just out of prison. That's where I was. And I just, like, you know, I had a suitcase and with my clothes, and I still had some of my kids' clothes in it, and I'd just smell their clothes at night, you know, and just cry myself to sleep and just be so miserable, and so much pain. But I used it, you know, I just use adversity to drive you, you know. That's what it was for me. And, you know, and exercise really saved me, because I just went for a walk, and while I was walking, I wasn't thinking about how shit my life was. You know? I was thinking, man, this is a steep hill. You know? And so I just exercised a lot, because while I was exercising, I was feeling good. But what was happening was, while I wasn't exercising, is when all the negative thoughts would come into my head. You know, I'd always driving back to Rewa from Royal Oak, One Tree Hill, and I'd be on the Mangere motorway, just thinking, man, I'd just be staring at the poles, you know, staring at power poles. I should just drive into these things. But what stopped me was my kids. You know, I wanted my kids back, and that's what stopped me from doing. So to stop myself from having these bad thoughts, I just exercise a lot. You know, I just would walk and just go to nice places and exercise, and just try and think of, I'd visualize the day I'd have my kids back, you know, and that's what drove me, man.
Man, that's just...
That's powerful.
Yeah, no, it's just something you said about hitting rock bottom. I've always believed that, you know, when you really hit that rock bottom and you feel like there's nowhere to go, even if you don't believe in God, having those experiences where you're to the point where you'll do literally anything to get out of the situation you're in. And it just sort of reminded me of how some of the things you've talked about, things like reputation and protection, you know, they can be used for bad or good. Like, they're actually not quite, they're not as far apart as we initially think. So it's just interesting seeing how you've come up in one direction, but you've been able to flip some of those things into like a sort of positive outlet. So I just wanted to commend you on that, and mention how amazing that was. And one of the things I was really curious about in terms of your journey was in terms of your relationship with your sister Vicky. I sort of read up a little bit online about, you know, the tough time she had and how tough it must have been for your family, and just the resilience that that came through in that. I was really curious to learn a little bit more on that.
Yeah, you know, it was, out of everyone in my family, out of me and my 2 sisters, it was ended up being the best one that went to prison. Like she got involved. She was sent to prison for fraud, and it was bullcrap. I never talk about it, but she was helping low income families get into homes. More than most of the time you can afford to actually pay a mortgage, you just can't afford the deposit. So I don't know the specifics of it, but there was she got into trouble for that. And the crazy thing is the system is so racist, especially when you have a surname like ours. Is the system knows, the bank manager that was a part of it got home detention, and my sister got 3 years prison.
Wow.
So it's just, and that was my sister's first ever offence, and it was just an absolute disgrace. I never talked. She'd done the wrong thing. I never said she didn't. But that's just total bullcrap. But she was doing her sentence, and I hated going and seeing her. I hate prisons. If you've never been to a prison, it sucks. And because the thing is, they treat you, the family, as if you're the inmate, So, and the higher up in the prison higher up security of the prison you go to, the worse it is. But in prison, she started getting sick, and my mum was just so worried, And they wouldn't take her they wouldn't bring a doctor in, they wouldn't take her to hospital, and it ended up she was spewing up black bile. And they told her to sleep upright so she wouldn't choke. So they treated her like a dog, less than a dog. And finally, after about 6 weeks or something, they took her to the doctors into Middlemore. Straight away, they scanned her, stomach cancer, stomach out, 6 months to live. And it was just it was just a total nightmare. It was a total nightmare, even just thinking about it now. Going through that, and then they just played games with my mum, not letting my mum visit her. My sister was such a caring person. Like I'd come in to visit her, and I'd bring food for her, and she'd tell me to give some to the guards. I said, "Fuck those guys," And she'd still feed them, and I said, "I hope they choke on the fucking food," Like it's just that's my mindset, because they just treated us like, and what they'd done. But it was not the guards' fault, It was the upper echelon, in the corrections. But they still they try to get her out on compassionate grounds, and they still thought that they could look after her. So they denied her twice, and they gave her they do things like they give her a bell to ring when she was in pain, but it had no ringer in the middle, And then they wouldn't give her medication. And, she just had her stomach out. She's got cancer. She's terminal cancer. And so I just had enough. I said, my family are trying to do things the right way through corrections and go through the lawyer. I said, no, I've had enough. I'm going to use, I was boxing at the time, and, although most people hated me, I was also doing our community work. I'd already started our boot camp, so I had a pretty good following for the work I was doing at that time. And so I just used it. It was like I was running a campaign, like I am now on Vote for Dave. It was the same thing back then. I was running a campaign to get my sister released. And anything I heard, I utilised any contacts I had in media from boxing. I utilised it for her. I'd go on radio show, literally like I was running for mayor. I'd just be asking mates that were in the media, how can I do this? How can I get on this show? Met Duncan Garner, got on his talkback, and then on his show, when he was on 7 Sharp. And, then we ended up doing, so anything I heard from inside, I'd report it to the media, and people were just in an outrage, And then we're trying to get politicians involved, and they just kept washing their hands of it and saying, it's, the ministers say they still do it now. It's not, we can't tell corrections what to do, which is total bullcrap. And then I organised a protest outside the prison, and even though some of my family didn't want me to do it, my sister did. So I done the protest, and then a week later she was released. Which changed the mind of the government. Where the Prime Minister John Key stepped in and said that's enough, and she was released on compassionate grounds. Sort of did home detention, all that sort of stuff. And died pretty much 6 months later. Yeah, so, everything I went through, that losing everything to come back here and then start boxing, and then all the hate that I got from boxing, because people was, I was getting death threats with the boxing. People would say I'm a disgrace to my people. We'll send you rope to hang your family with. All of the stuff that I get. Yeah, it was bad. It was really bad. But everything I went through was worth it, because I was able to use that profile that I had, even though it was not the best profile, but I had a profile. I was able to use it to get her out, and that's how I done it.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's awesome. Thank you so much.
Yeah, sure. Also, just to sort of go back and between those two moments, because you created a profile, you created Brown Buttabean, and was that the gimmick that you wanted to carry?
No, like the whole way I got into boxing was, so I grew up with David Higgins, who's the boss of Duco, Joseph Parker's promoter. He's now Joseph's manager. And they had a lot of circus acts, celebrity fights, and I think they had a couple of dwarves fight. Is that how you little people?
Yeah.
I don't know what the PC term is, but they were a lot of circus act fights, and Dave actually brought me back here from Australia. He was, he's agnostic, but he's always been my guardian angel, and he was the first person to call me when I stabbed myself, and he was there. And then when I was staying at my mum's afterwards, he keep tabs on me, and he brought me back to New Zealand, and he had to pay for me business class because I was too big. I couldn't fit in economy, and so he was always really worried about me. He never really wanted to leave me alone much, because I was on the edge. And so Joseph Parker was fighting over in Germany, and Dave goes, "You want to come to Germany to watch him fight?" And I went, "Oh, yeah, that'd be awesome." And he goes, "Well, you better train hard, because you're not coming business. You're traveling in economy, So if you want to fit in economy, you better train hard." So I started walking twice a day then. But over in Germany at Joe's weigh-in, so it was Leopai and Klitschko was the main card.
Yeah.
They had their own weigh-in, and the undercard had theirs, which Joe was on. So at that one, the head of German boxing, they'd never seen such a large tattooed Islander before with a shaved head, and they wanted to see what I weighed. They were fascinated by me, and I wanted to see what I weighed too, because every time I jumped on the scale back here, it said error. So I was. They dragged me through the audience and chucked me on the scale, and I was 178 kilos, and everyone was going, man, just shocked at how fat I was. And I was happy because I just realized how much weight I'd lost. So I was up there, and because I was so happy, I was doing what you do, what you see in the movies of those American, I'm the man, I'll take it anyone, And everyone laughed, and that's when Dave had the idea, man, that's what you're going to do. We're gonna roll you out as the next circus act before Joe fights. We'll call you the Brown Buttabean. The whole name actually came from Dave's brother Andrew, and I told Andrew, Dave's going to get me to fight on Joe's card, and Andrew just laughed and said, "What are they going to call you, the Black Butterbean?" Because there's a famous white boxer called Butterbean, who's a big fat white guy. I was a big fat brown guy. Dave loved their name. He goes, "But you have to call you Brown Buttabean," and I didn't care. I just said, how much am I going to get paid? That was the only way I was going to earn money. Wow. But it wasn't a lot of money. I was getting paid for the work that's involved. I was on getting $5,000 a fight. So it's a lot to take on for $5,000 every 12 weeks or whatever. That's why I'd fight as much as I could, because I fight on all the small cards to get a few hundred here, a few hundred there, and then the Ducos were the big ones. But yeah, it was the premise was the Butterbean does whatever he wants. He talks about himself only in the third person. He does what he wants, he says what he wants, and he goes wherever he wants. And that was the thing. And what we had to do was call out whatever area Joe fought in. So, of course, the first area he fought in when I was on was bloody South Auckland. So, and it was Joe Parker, Brian Minto at Manukau Event Centre. And I had the weigh in there. Of course, the scale said error again. And I said, there is no way. I'm the mighty Brown Buttabean. There's no one in New Zealand, let alone South Auckland, that can beat me. I'm the toughest man in New Zealand. And people just went nuts. They go, who's this fat bastard saying he's the toughest man? And they ran a competition where people had to enter, and the crowd goes wild, and it was like a new thing. No one was really doing that then, you know. So people couldn't handle it. Like, for me, I could tell it was a joke, but no one else could. And you know, it was like I was playing a bad guy in wrestling. That's, you know, so like I'd watch the heel, watching Ric Flair, and I'd do the Ric Flair strut and all these stupid things. So it was just funny to me. But I understood early on that Joe Parker is the main event. He's the main thing. So if I want to make the news, I need to do stupid stuff, you know. So I just I'd have to keep upping it, you know. So I you know, and man, I fought horse Vatsuvo. He was fearsome guy, fearsome reputation, and you know, I was saying stuff, and I was like shitting myself like while I was saying it, you know. But it was just like I was just playing, and we became friends after, you know. I was just playing a character, and
did he understand that you were?
Not till after.
Not till after.
So he was up for blood. Was he up for blood?
Yeah, I talked to him straight after the fight, you know. And I think, anyone that if they talked to me like off the camera, they understood.
Yeah.
But it was literally, I was doing it because that's the only way that I was making money. And what I'd make, I'd send it to Australia to my kids. Wow. And you know, but because I had to keep upping it, you know, because can't keep doing the same thing if you want to make the news. So, you know, I turn up to, you know, I turn up as Elvis I turn up as in a full SWAT team. I had some mates that were used to be in like the special army over here, and they still had all their gear, the riot gear. So they dressed up in that in Newmarket. And Tux Fale was there. He's a wrestler. I got lots of. He gave me heaps of tips on how to play this character. Wow. And I really got a lot of advice from him. He was around early in my career. It was him. Had and all these SWAT guys in full riot gear, and we walked down Newmarket, and they were stopping traffic in formation. And I turn up there. And Mike King would give me one-liners to say, you know, and as soon as I walked in, you know, it worked because the crowd, like all the news just come over to me, you know, and I'd say, yeah, these guys aren't here for my protection. They're here for all of your protection. Protect you guys, not me. You know, just do real you know, and, you know, like I challenged, I went to Palmerston North, and I said, you guys aren't tough enough for me. I had to fight two of you, you know, in the one night, you know, so just whatever I could do to cause a ruckus. But it was hard to keep that up because through that, because I was losing weight on every show, people would start to say, man, what's the secret to this? How are you losing weight? Our people always think there's a secret, you know. So when I tell them, well, you know, just stop drinking fizzy drinks and stop eating rubbish every day and go for a walk, you know, that's the secret. People would always hope, especially our people, would always, they think there's a shortcut. They're hoping that I tell them to drink this potion, take this pill, and stand on one of those machines that shake you about, you know. And, you know, so I started a group called Buttabean Motivation, or BBM Motivation, on Facebook as a place where I could send people, because everywhere else on all my socials, I was being a dick, you know. So I played the character full on, like I was never off, you know. Because that was my job, you know, and I was trying my hardest to be it, you know. But in the group, I started it as like just a blog for myself where I could share my fitness, and that's how it started, you know. And we started our first boot camp. It was actually in West Auckland. My wife's a Westie. It was her father's mate that needed help, so I helped him, and it was only a handful, maybe 3-4 of us there. And then I thought, geez, we should see who else wants to come from our group. You know, so we put it in our group, and then out south we started in a driveway in Papatoe, helping one person. Wow. And then same thing, we should see if anyone else wants to come. And that's how, literally, it's thousands.
Tens of
people.
thousands now,
If you think about what we're doing just with our food bank, and I call it a food share, not a food bank, because a food bank can have a negative connotation. Our people can feel embarrassed to ask for help. I never want to say, everyone watching, never feel embarrassed to ask for help, because it's a sign of strength, not a sign of weakness to reach out and ask for help. We call it, so we started the food share, and that alone's fed hundreds of thousands of people. And we started it without any funding, and we just did it. Yeah, so it's amazing, so we've got Jim and Monaco and Yulin opening up in Tokoro. We've got a community kitchen, our food share. So there's lots of things that we're doing.
Wow, that's crazy. I just admire your tenacity, Dave. We could run it back a bit, Dave, because you talked about the system in terms of Vicky. And I think early on we talked about the system kind of being quite racist and all that. And I love what you said. You said, hey, we can complain about the system all we want, but if we don't get up our own asses and do some hard mahi or hard yaka, nothing's going to change. So what do you say to some of our men out there? Because some of them think, oh, it is the system, and then we can just kind of stay in that state for years. What would you say to our men who are like in that kind of mentality?
You've just got to get up and make it happen. You just can't rely on it. You can't wait for it. The systems, there is help there, but it's hard to find. It's hard to navigate. At the best of times. So you just can't. If you get up and start, like say, for example, our food bank, food share. We started it because there was a mum of 4 that had no food and no money before the first ever level 4 lockdown, and the system couldn't help her. And if you can imagine what that was like as a parent, with 4 kids that have nothing going into the first ever, and there was so much uncertainty then. So I didn't wait to try and get funding from MSD to do it. I just did it because I could. Wow. And I just hustled. So everything that I went through with my sister was the same then. I just hustled, made as many connections as I could. I joined LinkedIn. I found out who the bosses of these different companies are, connected with them, and I reached out to them and asked for help. So again, I say never be shy to ask for help, but I reached out and I said, look, this is what we're doing. Can you help? I don't mind paying for stuff, but if we can get it at a discount, can I, and that's how it all started. So I didn't, and then what's happened is that now MSD have come and started supporting us.
Wow.
Ministry of Health have started supporting us after 7 years of running our free health programs, but we're not reliant on them.
Yeah.
So it's the same. Like I'd say to anyone, just get out and start, get out and do it for yourself, and the system will catch up. For people out there just wondering how to get help, just don't be lazy. Get up and do whatever it takes in terms of, go and I would, like I said before, I'd clean toilets, do anything I could to put food on my table, and doing it the right way. And then, if you need a hand, there are organizations out there like us, that can help navigate. There's plenty of help out there, but they're not going to tell you about it.
Exactly. Yeah.
I was going to ask about that with some of the other organizations. Do you ever find that there's although everyone has the same mission, do you find there's ever conflict or?
Not everyone has the same mission.
Ah, okay, cool.
Community groups have the same mission, and lots of these big organizations that I always say, I meet with lots of government officials, and I met with Chris Luxon a couple of weeks ago. And he was asking me what needs to change, and I just said, look, before you go, if you become Prime Minister, and said, before you go and fund anyone, said, ask yourself this one question: would these guys do it if they had no funding? And right there, if they wouldn't, then I wouldn't give them any money.
Wow.
Because groups like us, and it's not just us, there's plenty of community groups out there doing great work with nothing. And they do it with no money. They just find a way to make it happen. If you supported those groups, and when I had a meeting with Jacinda a couple of years ago, I said that to her. We're giving millions and millions, she said to me, to different, and she is. So, but I said to her, you're giving it to the wrong organizations.
Wow.
That's what's happening. You know, you're giving it to organisations that are they're like another government department. They're filled with bureaucracy. And the money that you're giving them pays for cars, flash buildings, and overinflated, too much bureaucrats, and then people. What we're left with is crumbs.
Yeah.
Wow.
So you've got organisations that look after our money, Pacifica. So you've got Whānau Water and then you've got Pacifica Futures. We get nothing, especially from Pacifica.
Wow.
We get nothing. And so I don't care, it is what it is. But the thing is, it's just filled with bureaucrats and there's gatekeepers to money, and they only look after the same old people. Until you can change these gatekeepers, nothing's going to change. We are all left to fight for scraps like we're dogs. So I'm not gonna do that. So I go off and make my own connections, and get corporate connections. Our model is perfect. And when I met with Carmel Sepuloni, I said our model, and she's amazing. She's a very rare politician that actually does what she says. It's community, government, and business all working together for the common good. But as soon as you start relying on government to pay your wages, man, they got you. You're just there to tick boxes and say yes, massa.
Yeah.
I'm not that. So it's our model is what works. Where of course we need your money, government. But the way that it's working with us, and it's really good, because what we're going to pave the way for other groups, where we're not just there to tick boxes. They understand. So Ministry of Health, we took one worker to come out and see us up the road there, and once she saw it, she understood. Because this is how it's done. It doesn't fit the box, but it's working for our people. And our people, unfortunately, are the ones that are overrepresented in all of these bad stats. So what you're doing is working on so many levels. So let's support it. So we're not confined by the system, but the system's helping us. So that's there as the model, and they're evaluating it for 2 years. We've got Massey University and Auckland University, both evaluating us, and it's evaluating the systems, because what we have is the BBM model. And that's the model that needs to be used to scale and to help other community organisations that are in the most deprived areas. It's our model that will help them. It's funny because we had a meeting last week with both universities, and they're talking, trying to get along, And I said, well, far out, man, surely if the Black Power Mongol mob can get along, 2 universities can. So it's cool. Like, we're just bridging the gaps there,
It blows my mind, Dave, because you've been proven. The work that you do is proven, and some of these funders would just, what's up? Is it just is who you know? Is it that old adage?
100%. Like, it's just it is who you know, and it's just this. It's the same with, I guess, with anyone. You're going to look after your mates. You know what I mean? Like, I guess it's the same with anyone. Like, you look at, but it's just gatekeepers to the money. And there's lots and lots of money out there, but it's just not spread out evenly, And the other thing is, there is lots of, I think more. I met with a guy about mental health. I was asking me for advice. Sometimes there's too many groups doing the same thing. Just support each other. The problem is,
everyone's fighting for
the same money. But if you just we don't need any more mental health organisations. Just go and support Mike King. You know what I mean? Like, people, there's organisations like him. So, even when I went to my first, so health is a business. We are just data. I went to my first meeting at the charismatic of DHB, applying for it was like a tender. We got invited for green prescriptions, and it was my first time I was ever exposed to the business side of health. And it was a few years ago now. I turn up just in shorts and a t-shirt, and everyone there is in suit and ties, and sitting there listening, and everyone's just talking about data and money. So I said, why is no one talking about the people we're supposed to be helping? Why are we all I'm hearing is people talking about data and money. No one's saying hello to each other. No, it's because you're all there. You're all here to compete for money, for that contract. When we should be all trying to work together to help our people. And of course, we didn't get the contract. But it just taught me a lesson. I've never changed the way I am. You know, I've just stayed true to my values, and it's always about the people. And you know, now it's slowly starting to happen for us.
That's awesome. Thanks. Shot also, thanks for leading the way.
Love it, man. Love it.
We need, you know, so many people out there doing good work, but we often like either disabled by the system and we wait for their help. But you're like, nah, I'm gonna go and get the help. I'm gonna bust down the walls. I'm gonna put myself out there, even if it looks like a circus act. Even now, you're like participating in the Dancing with the Stars, and
it's you've like you just got to go out and make it happen.
that's mean.
and you'll get support. You know.
Yeah. So let's sort of go back. Like I know when you hit your rock bottom, your kids were your I guess the driving force. They were the thing that carried their hope. What is it now?
It's still, you know, it's still my kids and my wife and being an example for them, but it's my people. It's all my people. You know, that I want to show us what's possible. You know that you can get nice things the right way, and just giving my people hope, to show them it's possible, but not just giving them hope, but showing them how. You know, teaching them how to do it. So you know, like that's the old adage, you know, about what is it? You know, give a man a fish or eat for a day. You know, teach a man a fish or eat for life. You know, so that's what I'm about. I'm not just trying to show off to you. I want to show you that this is how you do it. It's possible. Just follow. You know, follow our footsteps in what we do.
Have you had some backlash, Dave, from our own people, from our people in terms of
None of like, you know, most like Pacifica leader, apart from Carmel, not many of them really like me.
Wow.
We get, like I said, we get no support. So it's just because it's old school, you know, that Samoa stuff. You got to bow your head and be humble.
Yeah.
And that was the most common thing that was always said to me, just be humble yourself. I said, well, hey man, humble's not being a doormat.
Ooh, nice,
You know,
nice.
like, I am humble, but I will speak up for my people, and I'll speak up for people that are too shy to talk about it.
Yeah.
So it doesn't really concern me, you know. So, but it is an issue. You know, but you know, like now I've got good people around me. I've got 9 employees. I've got really good infrastructure, so I can highlight issues. But I don't have to. Like, I'll cost us stuff if I go to certain things. So you know now, especially with the way the new health reform's coming, you know, we need to work and collaborate with other people. So you know now I've got a team that can work on relationships. You know, there's things that I'm going to have to work with people that I don't like, but it's for our people.
Well,
So you just got to do what you got to do. But you know, doesn't mean I got to go to the meetings.
That's good.
But how do you squash that, Dave? Because I know I've had conversations after conversations in terms of humility. Oh, be humble. That's the first Samoa way. You know, no eye contact and just humility. But how do you squash that? Because it's so hard for some of our men.
It is hard, and it's just a cultural thing. And I'm not, I'm not saying don't be humble. I'm just saying stand up for yourself. You know, that's all I can really, I mean, I serve my people, and if that means I've got to speak up and be called arrogant, then I'll do it.
Wow.
Because my why and my purpose is helping my people.
Yeah.
So that's it. That outweighs anything. I don't care what people think about me because I know why I'm doing it. I know my purpose.
100%, man. 100%. Because people will
no one can speak on it. No one can. No one can speak on my work. Because our work speaks for itself. So no one can come at me in public. Because what are they going to do? Like they can't speak on my work. My work speaks for itself. So many groups come to me, how do you get this profile, blah, blah, blah. And I just tell you, you've got to do the work. The work comes first. Help people. Even with that guy I was talking to the other day, they were talking about we've set up this charity and we want to start. But we need, I've got a family, I need security. I said, well, if you want to help people, start. Like help one person. Like what are you waiting for? Why do you need money to help someone? You know, just help one person. You know, I said to him, you're seeing the end result now of where we are.
Yeah.
You haven't seen the grind since 2014 that's gone on to make it happen. You know, like even only maybe 4 years ago, we're staying with me, my wife, and 3 kids in a sleep out with no kitchen. You know, so you haven't seen that. You can't jump those steps. You see the finished product, and we're not even finished yet. You know, you want that, but you haven't. You can't skip any steps. You know,
That's good.
so you've got to first start and then don't stop. You know,
Yeah.
Everyone wants the promise, but no one wants to go through the process.
yeah, 100%.
And we live in a day and age where we see the end result, we see all the perceived glamour, but no one is wanting to go through what you went through, and no one knows those.
It's a lot of work, and it's a lot of pressure, you know.
Yeah.
Even with being on the show Dancing with the Stars, that's why I'm not on it to win the competition, even though I'm in the semi-finals, but I'm on it for the 2-minute clip they play of our work before, and like I'm saying, okay, this is what I need. You know, come and film the food bank, now this week they're filming our youth program. You know, so that's what I'm doing it for. And then the 1 minute I get to talk after I dance. You know, so before I you know, when I turn up, I'm saying to the host, "Oh, please, can you ask me this question? I don't want to know. Don't ask me about my dancing. You know, ask about this, so I can then lead me into my answer. You know, just getting our message out there about encouraging others, and you know, raising awareness, because it's a mainstream show. You know, when I think about the advertising we've got on it, it's worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. When I've been on it now 5 weeks in prime time, and those minutes that I'm getting to speak is worth hundreds of thousands of dollars that we could never get. And now there's all this new audience of people seeing not only the work we do, but man, really? There's hungry kids in New Zealand?
Wow.
You know, for real? You know, because you only know what you know. There's bubbles existed long before COVID.
For sure.
Where people at the top have no idea what's happening for us down at the bottom. And so it's not their fault. You know, so that's why I use every opportunity to highlight it.
It's fascinating how we often overestimate the progress of our society, when in fact there are issues that have been generational. You've talked about before. There are so many issues that are generational, poverty being one of the biggest ones. But I just wanted to touch on the work that you do. I can relate personally in terms of the statistics. You know, behind every number is a name, behind every name is a story, and that's why data and money go hand in hand, but there's nothing behind them. Money doesn't have a story. It just changes hands all the time. And sort of touching on what you mentioned in terms of being humble and being a doormat, there's a quote about there are 2 types of people in the world, doormats and matadors. Which one are you? And there was a quote while I was doing some research on you where you had mentioned, you know, if being humble was the way, would that have gotten my sister out for that period? Yeah. And I just, that really stuck out to me. And I think through your story, everyone loves sort of the character arc of redemption in movies, but this isn't a movie, this is your real life. And it's awesome to see the character arc and the growth, and it's so authentic, and it's something I think that endears you to people, to everybody, that supports your mahi. And I think with the mahi that you're doing, you're kind of uniquely positioned, because I feel like a lot of politicians and organizations, like you mentioned, they're all trying to get in with like, how do we connect with the Pacific Māori community? And you've been able to do it in a way that's authentic, that gives back, it puts the service first, and you're sort of living those values that are important to Māori and Pacific people. So
yeah, it is amazing the position we're in, and because we're authentic and people, they know that we're real 100%, you know. So the cool thing with us is that, you know, I can walk into a boardroom or I can walk into a gang pad. You know, everything's like, we can go in all circles. You know, I turn up and I'm the same person. I don't change because of the situation I'm in. I'm just who I am. But, you know, we can have conversations with leaders of, you know, the country, and leaders of gangs. You know what I mean? So we're blessed in that way, that we can move in all these different circles, you know, and we just have any connection. I just try and connect charity, you know. I just try and connect people with money to people without it, you know, and that's all I do, and that's sort of my role in BBM, and that's what I'm good at.
That's cool. Hot topic at the moment in the political climate is
Ram
ram
rates.
raids.
Yeah.
Your thoughts?
Oh, look, this has been around a long time. You know, when you think that my dad burnt his school down at 9, you know, became a ward of the state. So this stuff was always happening. It is getting worse and more apparent, and you're hearing about it more because of social media. But the reason I believe it's getting worse, one of the main reasons, because the gap between the have and the have-nots is getting bigger. So of course, if you know, poverty is the driving issue here. If you don't have something and then you want it, you know, and who likes being poor, you know?
Yeah.
And you know, and then you look around, the same what I was saying before, that the guys that with this nice stuff is the gangsters, but then you do have an element of these older guys using the younger kids, you know, but it's still driven. If they weren't poor, those kids wouldn't be there doing it.
Yeah.
You know, it's tough, you know. And then you've got, just with the people that we work with, you've got parents that are just so busy trying to pay the rent. You know, they're both working, and so that they're not home. The same back with my dad. The parents, my grandparents were always at church. You know, it's like I think a lot of that generation, where they were just never home because they were always at church. You know, so that was that generation. Now you've got this one that's just working so hard because things are so expensive to live. Inflation's going up, but it's not matched by the wages aren't going up at the same level. So you just got driving. The poverty is even more, and then you've got parents that are just lost control, and then you've got parents who just don't give a shit. You know, and they're the ones that's the hard one. You know, because again, that's generational. The parents who just don't care, but it's not the kid's fault. You know, so what can you do? You know, this is going to take a long time to reverse. You know, and what I said to Chris Luxon when he asked me about it, I said it needs to be community led. You know, by people that these kids can identify with and relate to, and it's going to take a long time. Yeah, it's going to take. You need to walk alongside these families for a long time to make a difference. You can't just throw money. What was it? Was it 500 million or so, 306 million or something like that? You can't just throw money and give cops more guns and build more prisons. And when you think it costs $100,000 to keep one inmate in prison for a year, imagine if that was reversed and the same amount of money was directed into prevention programs. You know, that are community-led initiatives. You know, there would be a difference there. But it's in health we talk about don't be the ambulance. Well, what they're doing here is they're the cop car at the bottom of the hill. Yeah. You know, and there needs to be punishment. There needs to be consequence, of course, but prison should be the absolute last resort. Yeah. Because prison is not rehab. It is a punishment, but it's not rehab. Don't expect them to go in there and come out better citizens. You know what I mean?
You're right.
So yeah, it's a really, and it's going to take a long time to change.
Sure. Also, thank you, because I work in the social service sector, and you hear everyone talking about it, and you got all these book smart people who talk about all their research, but that's the best golden theories. Yeah, take all their theories, but you have the experience. You're on the ground. Your background's there. You understand it. Yeah. So I'm like, man, I'm just really inspired by the work you're doing, but also like, are you someone that looks into the future? Like, where do you see yourself like in 2030?
So I've got a 5-year goal of building a village here in South Auckland where we have everything. And Judge Ida Malosi come to see me. She flew up from Wellington. She's an amazing lady. She just asked me that same question. Yeah. What's your plans? And we talked about building a village. Wow. I said, well, in 5 years, all my leases of everywhere runs out. We're paying a lot of money in leases. We could afford to pay off a mortgage. We just can't afford to get the deposit. You know? So I'm meeting some people, great people, and in 5 years I want to be able to build this village that has everything for like basketball courts, movie cinema, doctors, therapists, counsellors, and pharmacy, our gym, our food bank, everything in one spot, and just think something that can be world renowned from all of our people around the world, that if they come to South Auckland, this is where they're going to visit. You know, they want to come put it, like she said, imagine if Rock came or someone came and or some famous comedian came and they want to we have an open mic night, and they come there, and then you have little hubs of it all around any deprived area, but the main one, what I'd want is South Auckland and also West Auckland, and it's just build it, a massive facility. We're already going to have free doctors in July at our gyms for people with long-term health conditions. That's happening. So it's just extending that, and that's where I'll be in 5 years.
Wow,
man, that's so cool.
2027, that's awesome. 3 years after that, will be 2030. If the people wanted you, because you already got people voting for you. If the people wanted you, would you?
I've thought about it, because I do get asked a lot if I'd go into it, but yeah, I don't know, because sometimes I think that you get more done doing what I'm doing now, but then I think, man, but to really make a difference, you've got to be at the table, and our representatives, especially for Pacifica, that are at the table now, they're eating all the food, there's nothing left for us, so that's what makes me think, maybe one day I'd have to calm down. If I went in now, I'd get thrown. It'd be the shortest ever political career.
Maybe let Nixon have his chance, and then go in the one after that. That's cool. Oh shucks!
It's always like trying to align with people that, I'm friends with Leo. He's running for mayor, and I cop a lot of heat about that, but me supporting him. Because, obviously our festivals are going, and people always say to me, why aren't you supporting your brother? And I said, well, my brother didn't help me feed people. That's what it is. Like, I met a festival and I told him that. I said, I'm Team Leo, but if you get in, of course I'll support you, but I might throw my support behind this guy, and people ask me why. So the fact is, I said, I'm not seeing race. The guy helped me to build my community kitchen. He fronted up $200,000 to build my kitchen, and then we raised the money and could pay him back. But there was no guarantee we would raise the money. Then he did that all with no press, and then he's helped us to making meals all through lockdown while he was closed. Made meals for us to give out. So. Of course I'm going to support him. You know what I mean? I'm loyal. I support people who support me, even if it means that I cop heat about it. And I do, like people have called, other politicians, other councillors, Pacifica councillors said that me and Monty are Leo's brown handbags. And I cop it more because I'm more out there. But Monty, Beetham gets it too. We're Leo's brown handbags. And it's just ridiculous.
Wow.
I'm not doing it because of his race. I'm doing it because he's helped me.
Yeah, that's awesome.
If he gets in, obviously it's better for us. So then it will be better for my people. Because he already supports me now. Imagine if he was mayor. Imagine the support we get then, which in return means our people get more support. The council now is just ridiculous. We got a little bit of support for them for the food parcels, but it was just scraps of what was left over, and then just they turned giving out food parcels into a bureaucracy. You would not believe it. And the only reason we got that is because I started being connected to Pacifica people out there within the council that were actually doing the work, and they supported us. So that's how we got, a little bit of support towards the end of them doing it, food parcels. Wow. Yeah.
Oh, man, love those. Hey, you mentioned Ida Malusi and Kamas Supolini and there's some real powerful ladies. So I'm just curious to know, because you mentioned your mom, in terms of your relationship with your mom, because she seems like quite an instrumental part of who you are, and you just being yourself. Just tell us a little bit about your mom.
My mum's just a strong lady, just been through so much, and we're very similar, very, very similar in our personalities and all our traits. She was just always there for me, through any high and the many lows. You know, she was there solid. You know, she met my dad when I think they were like 13, 14. She was a street kid from Bennydale down the line. Just tough, like tough, you know. When my dad was before the mob, they had them, it was called the Mangere Dogs. And she, you know, there's all these little groups around, and she was the mole patrol, you know, it was all the girlfriends of the Mangere Dogs, you know. But she was just a ruthless back in the day. And she really changed. Like my grandparents hated her, you know, they thought she was the devil. But then it was her and my father that nursed my grandfather back to, you know, into when he got dementia, and they moved in, and she became so close with my grandparents. It took her, she's a born again Christian now, but it took her a long time. But it was always, her actions were Christian, you know. You don't need to be born again, you know. But she is now. But yeah, just a really awesome person. But you know, it affected her losing my sister big time, you know. Yeah, so, but you know, we try and I try and do as much as I can.
Because it seems like a recurring theme. Also, a lot of the guys that have come in, they've said it's been their moms. Their moms have been a big part of their lives, and so wow, it's just. I see it
especially like, you know, when you come from where I come from, it's the women are left to sweep the pieces of what the mess that men in their lives have made, and my mum's just been solid, the right through, you know. But you know, like. I remember when we were young, you know, looking for, because my mum loved to party, you know, and they had us so young, you know, and I used to remember having my sister Vicky doubling her around on a bike, going from party to party, looking for my mum, you know. So, but really close with her.
Man, awesome.
Yeah, just because, you know, man, we've heard a lot of the journey. What are some of the good news stories that really stand out for you with all the work that you've done? And even good news stories for yourself?
Yeah, oh man, like I've got my kids back. I've got a new wife, amazing wife, Corrine, new son. You know, we're in our own home out west. I never in my life thought I'd own a home. You know, never in my life did it ever enter my thinking that I'd have my own place. Of course, it's the banks until I pay for the next 30 years, but you know, to be paying off my own home, it's just, I just never thought that was possible. And it's crazy because I never, you know, never posted about it, nothing like that. You know, you see that sold thing, but you know, just with the way that our people, you know, that tall poppy stuff, I didn't want anyone thinking negative, you know, but. And just, you know, being able to, the good news stories for me is that being able to help people, you know, but it's never ending. The thing is, it's just never ending. I can't answer my messages. I've got a team now that do it, and I still go and have a look, but because I'll go broke, you know, like there's an amount of people that are just reaching out, ask for help. If I can't help them, if I can't help someone on the day and their stories just rips your heart out, I'll send them money, you know. So I need to stop doing that, otherwise we'll go broke, you know. So, but you know, yeah, just I guess I don't know. I guess the good thing is that we're able to help, you know. But the sad thing is that the need's so great, you know. Like, but because we're so accessible, you know. Just on the weekend, got asked. I've only met this person from work, going to a restaurant that they worked in, and you know she worked up the courage to reach out, ask for help. You know, the pregnant partner said it's not his, wants her to get an abortion, and now she's got to move out of the home, no money, no nothing, from a different country, you know. So, but the good news is that we could help. So it's always the hard thing is there's good news, but it's always because of the bad news. You know what I mean? Yeah, but the fact that we're able to help so many people, the fact that people are warm, kids are fed, there's people still alive because of us. You know, that's the good news.
That's good also. And it sounds like, because you got a busy lifestyle and you're always helping others, and it can almost drain you from your sort of your cup. What does self-care mean to you, or what do you do for self-care?
Yeah, it is tough, Mick. I mean, even, doing this, you know what I mean? It's like, end of the day. But no, it's because, that's a good platform to help people. For me, it's just being around good people. Self-care for me is training with my mates. But yeah, at the moment, it's tough because I'm not doing. I'm doing too much, but it's because the need's so great. But I'm lucky. I got a good team. I got a good family, but I don't spend anywhere near enough time with my family. So it's hard. That balance, it's hard, man. It's a never-ending struggle of finding balance, and whether it's crime or doing community work, it's the balance. Like even like me and my dad, we battle. Like we struggle now because he's hard. Like he's like me in the community with Grace Foundation, helping people like him. Where he was. So it's just relentless. So he's on it. And then I say, well, you lost us. You never were with us. Now you're not with my kids. And then it's the same with me. So I'm gone so much. And I'm doing it for my kids. I say, so same thing you say. When I'm doing this for my kids, but then it takes you away. So it's hard finding that balance. So I'm still. It's a work in progress, and people say, "Oh, you shouldn't have to work on finding time with the kids." Well, you do. Like I do. Especially when you're community minded. And it always the sacrifice, unfortunately, is your family. That's the unfortunate part about what we're doing in the community. The sacrifice is family, and it's not fair on them. But yeah. It's a hard one, what are you going to do, It's people need you. So I'm just lucky that I have a good wife, very lucky. And my kid, like I try and leave the Saturday for them, but then now I'm doing Dancing with the Stars. There's Dancing with the Stars. You're gone all weekend, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. You're gone all day, come back at night. But again, it's for the greater cause. Wow. But then when that show's finished, and I am before the show, I was actively making sure that Saturday was my day with the family.
It's cool.
Has there been a time, Dave, like even now, because I know a lot of good things are happening for you and the people in the community and so forth, but has there been a time when you just get up in the morning and you think, man, I've just had it, just too much, it's just too much?
Oh, not really. Like I wake up tired, like I wake up, man, but I've never thought of not doing it. But because my purpose is so strong, especially like I said before, because the need's so great. So I have to, like I don't have an option. Like if, I was telling my dance partner, I said, man, if I give up, there's literally thousands of people that won't eat. So how am I going to give up? So I have to keep going. And my main, like I said, I've got a great team. So my main role is profile. That's it, and making connections, building connections. That's the thing that I need to do. It wasn't like before when I was running all the boot camps. I don't run boot camps anymore. There'll be maybe one or two that I do for like our From the Couch people that I'm helping, but that's it. The rest of it, I'm just raising profile, making sure we got money to pay for it all. Because it's, that gym around the corner on Cavendish Drive costs us $140,000 a year, and we don't charge our members one thing, and we never will. So, but that's a lot of hustling you got to do to make that happen.
I just love that. Got a big profile, but you're just as human as everyone else, and I think your resilience, your journey has built your resilience to do a lot of things that you're doing now, and faith playing a big part in your why.
Yeah, for sure. I got turned off God in church for a long time, because when I was in the Seventh-day Adventist over in Mount Druitt, man, it's hardcore, man, and it was run like, the deacons were more like bouncers, if they caught you out of, and because I couldn't understand or speak Samoan at a full-on Samoan church, they'd just beat me, that was what it was like, they'd break off branches and, or slap you, so that turned me off church, but I had that faith was ingrained in me from my grandparents, so I've always had faith in God, but I don't believe in going to church. I don't think going to church makes you a Christian. And I went to Papster to do a speech, and I've never been invited back, but I still, I still help there. We're feeding maybe 40 families a week with solid Andrew Hofflich. He's got an amazing story. We help with him. But, I went into church and I said, what time does church start? And they said 10 o'clock. What time does it finish? 1. So, well, don't be 10 to 1 Christians one day a week. That's what you do outside these walls. That's what counts. It's not what you do in here. What counts is what you do when you're outside of church. That's what matters. Are you a good person? You don't, that's what matters. So I never got invited back to speak, but that's truth.
Yeah,
so many people are good Christians in church, but then they're the devils outside at you. You know what I mean? So you just got to. For me, it's about being a good person, whether you're Christian or not. But but I am Christian. Yeah. But you got to be a good person.
That also.
And I just wanted to touch and pick your brain a little bit about, I love the ambition for the village. I think that's awesome. And so I was a little bit curious about what are the biggest supports you need at the moment to make that dream a reality. And then just to lead on from that was in terms of men's, the health of men and sort of the state of society today and where it's sort of trending to. What do you anticipate as the sort of big challenges of the future for men?
So what we need is money. That's it. We got plenty of volunteers. We got a massive movement of people, on call all the time that can help us. The main reason we need money. People always say, "How can I loan my time?" I said, "Well, no, we're all right for time unless you're an expert at something that I need. What we need is money or food, or money to buy food." Or money to pay for our lease, or a place we can have for free, I don't know what the biggest issue. I think the biggest issue for us as men is always going to be understanding it's okay to ask for help, and it's okay to reach out and talk. Especially with us, where in our culture it's just put everything under the carpet and not talk about nothing. And then you explode. You need to talk. Reach out, ask for help, and understanding that it's not weakness,
Cool. And just to follow up on that, I was going to ask, with everything you've gone through, there's a lot of things to unpack there, and I just wonder in terms of things like, what do you think about the role of counselling and things like that? Or are you meaning in terms of talking with family and friends to support, or do you mean? Do you also advocate for things like counselling?
Yeah, 100%. I'm very good friends with Mike King, and what the work that they do is amazing. Sometimes you don't feel you're too shy to speak to your family about things. Sometimes you want to speak about your family. So, you definitely got to counsellors. That's why when we do this village, it'll have free counsellors, everything free, and then we'll have free lawyers, everything. Anyone that's made it from here, and this will be the place that they can come back and give back.
Cool.
That's cool.
That's awesome.
Pray into that dream.
Yeah, man, that's amazing. That's amazing what you're doing. And I'm always conscious for time as well. So I know you're a very busy man. I know you talked about balancing, getting back home to your wife and your beautiful kids. Any last questions? Any?
Nah, not a question. I just wanted to honor the work that you do. Also, I'm not an expert at this, but I just know as the community needs you, and I know you're resilient, but I just pray that you find time for you just to fill your cup, and just thank you for just being that voice for our people, and being a pioneer and being a spearhead, because spearheads need to go and break through so the rest can follow through, and you're one of those, and I can't wait to help support the campaign when you do run for mayor at some point. But yeah, just wanted to honour the work that you do also, and continue to pray for you and BBM movement, and bless you. Thank you so much for being on
brother.
Yeah, I just wanted to add, I'm one of those statistics, man, in South Auckland with, that are waiting for the stars to align. And so I just wanted to big ups to the work and the movement, and sort of offering some insight into the sacrifice that goes on. I think that was something that I learned about you today that I would never have guessed behind the scenes, how much demand this takes on your time, how much it takes you away from family, and then sometimes the things that you want to do. So I just wanted to say how appreciative I am for your example and for the mahi that you do. So yeah, thank you.
Thanks, bro. That's awesome.
Dave, I think a lot of men would appreciate what you've been saying. I think a lot of people are thinking, how did you do it? And just you being honest and sharing with us and being open and honest about it, man, it just speaks volumes also. And I love the fact that it is the hard grind. The hard grind, you continue to go, you continue to push through, and you don't shy away from who you are and your convictions. And so also thank you so much for your time. But also, is there someone that you could think of that would be ideal to come on the podcast off the top of your head? Who do you think would be?
I think, you'd get my father on, or,
Nice.
He's amazing.
Yeah.
And Andrew Hofflich, he does a really great story in the work that he's doing now.
Wow.
And that'd be the two that I'd pick.
Cool. Awesome.
But before we finish, I just want to thank you guys for getting me on and letting me share. But just to everyone out there watching, I just always want to share my the 4 pillars of the way that I live. And it's number 1 is just starting, like you were saying. You're waiting for the stars to align.
Yeah.
Don't wait. Just start. So many people that I've visited in hospital, and we all think it will never happen. Just around health, we all think it will never happen to us until it does. And every single person that I visited, and some never made it out, they'd give absolutely anything to have an opportunity to go back in time and start. So while you have that opportunity, don't waste it. Start. Second thing is being consistent. Understand that no one's perfect, and life does suck, and sometimes life sucks more than it's any good. And you will get told no, you will get doors closed on you, and you will constantly get knocked down. But every time you get knocked down, what do you got to do?
Get back up.
100%. If I'd stayed down, I just think about the ripple effect now of what would have happened if I'd stayed down. There'd be people who'd be no longer here. There'd be, it just blows my mind. So, in terms of professionally, if you think that success is only just around the corner, but if you keep giving up, you'll never know. You'll never get there. You'll never realize success because you constantly give up. Third thing is surrounding yourself with good people. It's very simple. If you surround yourself with 5 idiots, what does that make you? You're the 6th idiot. You've got to surround yourself with people that are only there for you, not because of what you can do for them. And surround yourself with 5 successful people, 5 people that are on the grind, they have the same purpose as you, they want to be successful. I guarantee you'll be the 6th successful person, and I talked about it with Phil, a guy called that I've helped that's lost like 150 kilos. He was when he first started, I said, anyone that you're hanging out with now that is inviting you out to eat and drink, knowing you're nearly dead, you need to cut them. And if they are your friends, they'll support you. And if they don't support you, then they're never your friends. So who gives a fuck about them? Cut them. Only surround yourself with successful people. I keep my circle's big, but it's small. The people that I really allow in is small. And then no excuses. That's the last one. That never let excuses stop you. Our people are filled with excuses. I hear them all the time. But you can say no excuses easy. Gyms use it as mantras all the time. But to truly live by it, you've got to have a very strong purpose, a very strong why, And so, I'd encourage the men or anyone out there listening to write down some meaningful things to you and try and choose one, you know, and it should be quite hard. Choose one thing and write that one thing and put it everywhere in your house. The first wall you look at when you open your eyes, put it there, laminate it and put it in your shower, put it on your fridge, put it in your cupboards, put it in your car, put it at work, everywhere. So when your times get tough and you're thinking of giving up, you can look at that and stare at it and visualize why you must keep going. You know, that's your deep down meaningful why. If that why is strong and if it truly is your why, it won't always work. It won't always stop you going to KFC. You know what I mean? When you shouldn't. You know, and just on that, there's nothing wrong with having a treat. You know, I'm not saying never eat it. I enjoy myself. I have a treat, a couple of treats a week, whatever it is. But if you're treating yourself daily, it's no longer a treat. It's just the way you eat. You know, so you know, you got to keep yourself in check. But if you fall off and if you have a bad day and if you get knocked down, your why won't always stop you from going through that, but it should always get you back on the wagon. And if it doesn't get you back on the wagon, it was never your why. So go back to your list and study it again. Because for me, when I started, I'd visualize I'm at the edge of a cliff and I'm holding my kids' hands, you know, and I'll never let go, you know, and I visualize that feeling is what I'd harnessed, you know, when times got tough. Now, of course, it's not always like that. You know, like sometimes you don't need it. Oh, when you wake up and it's cold, oh, I gotta think of my kids. Sometimes it's like, oh man, I'll just have a nice coffee after. You know, like that gym there next door has a nice porridge. You know, So it doesn't have to always be deep and meaningful. But for those hard times, it needs to be deep and meaningful. You know, for those tough times in life, you need to have that real strong why and purpose, and with that, you can overcome anything.
Lord lover, man. Hey, also, thank you so much for your time, Moose. But we do have a gift for you, Moose. And so every guest that comes on, we always give them a bit of a caricature or a sketch, Moose.
Oh, awesome.
And this is on behalf of the Mandate team. This is for you, Moose.
Oh, mean.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you so much for your time and just your nuggets. And so we appreciate it, Moose.
I thought my body would look a bit more like The Rock. That's cool, man. I love it. Thank you very much.
Also, thank you so much. But we have a mantra here as well, also. So our mantra is refine,
Unlock,
Take charge.
Thank you, Dave Letele.